Just a minute.
Sir,
Yes.
can you explain the example which you gave in the odd day topic?
What do you mean by example?
सर तुम्ही एक्झाम्पल दिले ना ते ऑड डेचं लिहिल्यानंतर खाली 94 days 13 weeks वालं ते समजलं नाही मला.
It's simple. So how many days are there? 94. Right. So how would you convert these 94 days into weeks? Am I audible?
Yes sir.
How will you convert these 94 days into weeks?
Divide by 7.
That's fine. Fine. So if you convert these 94 days into weeks, obviously it will appear 13 weeks. But still, some days will be left,
Yes.
right? So that are nothing but 3 days. So if you write it into the weeks, so 13 weeks is equal to 91 days. But you have altogether 94 days. So if you subtract the days of weeks, complete weeks, that's the reason I have written there, right? To know the concept of odd day, and therefore you have to calculate, or you have to know the complete weeks in a given period, right? So here it is, complete weeks. So after converting the given days into complete weeks, some days will be left, and that days are called your odd days, right? Suppose here there are 2 days, so don't confuse that 2 is not odd. That is not that concept. Odd days means that something which is not completing the week. To complete the week, you will require exactly 7 days. Anything less than 7 or anything greater than 7 will always result into odd days. Fine. So this is the
Yes
concept.
sir.
That is the
Okay
reason
sir.
why 19 days is being converted into 2 weeks and 5 days. Fine. So that would be the case. Fine.
Okay sir. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Now, after converting this, the weeks, the days into the weeks. Now, you should also know the concept of leap year, which is very important, right? So the year, any year, if you consider, right, which is divisible by 4, is nothing but a leap year. But that should not be century. Now, let's consider 1900, then 2100, right, or 1800, 1700, 1500, 1400, right? So it is not a leap year, but right, I left in between 1600, 2000, right, 1200, 800, 400. So these are definitely the leap years. Therefore, every 4th century is a leap year, right? So for example, if I write here 1400 year, 1800, 1200, 1600, and the year which our generation had seen, right? So 200, 2000, fine. So this 2000 is a leap year. But what I said here, 1900 or the coming year, right, 2100 is not a leap year, right? Not leap year. Fine. So this could be the way. Okay.
हेलो हेलो
हाँ.
हेलो
Yes.
सर.
अरे बोल
हेलो.
बोल.
हाँ सर, एवरी फोर्थ सेंचुरी इज a
आवाज
leap
येते
year
बोल.
means.
Sorry.
हेलो. Every fourth century is a leap year means.
Okay. Fine. So in this case, what I said, see, every fourth century, that means, for example, you just consider, forget about these things, you just consider year 2000. So to every the year 2000 was leap year, and therefore after every 400 years, the year coming is definitely a leap year. Right? That is the concept. Right? So these are the some of the things which you have to know. Fine. So what I said, two things are the leap years. First, every year divisible by 4 is leap year, right? If it is not century, fine. And then every fourth century is ultimately the leap year, fine. So that is the reason. If you go for these years, you will be thinking that what it could be. But you know this particular year, right? So most of you, I think there was a song, Dekho 2000 Zamana Aa Gaya. So that particular case you can consider, okay. Then next, uh, it is very long away, right? So this will be the way. Yes, that is the reason what I said. If it is not a century, so century, these will be divided by, uh, let's say, what I can say, divisible by 4. But every year divisible by 4 will not be the leap year. Keep in mind, right? That means the odd centuries, or even the centuries which are, suppose here if I write this one, so this might be divided by 4, but that will not be the leap year. Always keep in mind. Fine. Okay. Now see, I will tell you one thing. So one thing you are, right, you will be agree that the leap year is appearing by every 4 years, right? So if you try to know the leap year after every 4 years, right, that will be becoming a very hectic work. Fine. So that could be the question. Anyway, now the next one, how many days a leap year has? So leap year has 366 days. Fine. Always keep in mind. This is again a very important thing. Then once if you know the leap year, then next the question comes that is related to the uh, say about ordinary day or ordinary year. Fine. Century which is not divisible by 4, then that century doesn't contain any leap year. No, 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 no. It is not like that. That century doesn't contain. That particular year is not leap year. Obviously, obviously every century will contain, right? Every century will contain the uh, leap years, right? So every 100 years will containing 24 leap years. So how do you come across these 24? So let's start from every 4 years, right? So after every 4 years, you will be coming across in a century about 24 years, which are called leap years. Fine. I guess it. Someone will definitely come across this one. It is not 25 leap years, right? So I think you need to calculate it, or you need to actually count it. So it will be coming to the 24 years, right? And therefore, remaining will be the 76 years, which are called ordinary years. So what could be the difference between the leap year and the ordinary year, right? Then, okay, next is about ordinary year. Now see, if you consider the year which is not a leap year, right? The year which is not a leap year is called ordinary year. Fine. So any ordinary year has 365 days. Fine. So 365 years. Sorry, days. Fine. So if you consider the case of the odd days, right? The counting of odd days. Now you have two concepts. One is ordinary year, second is leap year. Now you have to go through the next thing, that is counting of odd days. Fine. Counting of odd days. So if you consider the okay, what I was talking, counting of odd days. So you know now already here the concept of odd days. Here you know leap years. Here you know ordinary year. Right. Now counting of odd days. So these odd days may be coming in leap year, and the odd days may be coming in the ordinary year. That's fine. So first, if you consider in this case the ordinary year, so how many will be the odd days, right? The in an ordinary year, how many will be the odd days? So you know in ordinary year there are 365 days. Fine. Then how you will convert these days into the weeks? Fine. So ordinary year is 365. So you will convert into weeks. So there are 52 weeks, right? This will become 364, right? And therefore, here you have one more day left, right? So this is your odd day. So in a ordinary year, you will have the one odd day. Fine. This would be the first thing which you should always keep in mind. Okay. If anybody wants to take the screenshot of this, they can. Yes.
स्क्रीन मधून मधून ब्लर दिसते.
नेटवर्कचा काही प्रॉब्लेम असू शकेल. Why don't you switch off your video? I suggest everyone or every participant to compulsorily switch off your videos. That will definitely help in saving us about the bandwidth.
हॅलो सर.
हा.
सर जर लीप इयर 96 इयरला आला तर मग पुढचा लीप इयर 8 इयर्स नंतर येईल ना?
बरोबर आहे. That is the reason why it is not 25. Someone asked in between, so why not 25 leap years in a century? Because 100 is not a leap year. So at a time you will be just considering only one century, right? Again, don't connect it with the 3rd century to 4th century, because if you connect it in 4th century, you will be coming across the next leap year, that is ultimately the 400 century. Fine. So I don't know what was your question, whether I have answered it not, but what I understood is that in a century, how many leap years should be there? If I say 24, then most of you are not agree. Rather, you are disagree that it should be 25. Right? So your claim is like it should be 25 years, but it is not 25 years because the 100th year in that century is not a leap year, right? And that is the reason why it is 24. Fine. Yes.
सर 100 सेंचुरी लीप ईयर का नहीं है?
Okay. Now, if you consider, right, what I said, the century, right, or the last year of that particular century. So I think one thing, if you consider, if it is not very first thing, it is not divided by 400, right? So it will be coming into some fractions. That would be the first case. Fine. Now, in this particular case, that is the reason why it is not considered as leap year. And therefore, obviously, if you consider one thing that after every 4 years, there will be a leap year. So according to that particular calculation or counting, if you go for that century, you will be coming across 25. It is very simple. So for 100 divided by 4 will be 25. But 100 is not divided by 400, right? And therefore, it is not the
400 का घेतलं सर?
That is the concept which is always being considered, that after every 4 centuries or 400th year itself is always the leap year, and that is the concept, to know the leap year in the centuries only for the last year of that particular century. That is the reason here I have written 400. Here I have not written the 100. Right. So 400, 800, 1200, 1600, 2000, then 2000, 2400. Likewise, that is the concept. Right? So these are some of the things which you have to digest, and you need to become used to these concepts. Right. Still, we haven't touched any kind of question. But I know whenever I say someone had asked, sir, go for the example. Right. So we have to go for the examples, no doubt. But unless and until knowing these things, I'm sure that it is very difficult to know the answers. Okay, since I have touched that point, I will now go for the example. Fine. So, for example, just consider what was the day